What's the thing, fam? It's your boy Brandon back here again for another podcast episode. We're excited for this one, guys. It's been a minute. We're getting back into things, so we're grateful for you guys' patience. We're grateful for you guys' eagerness. We're grateful for you guys' downloads. You guys have been downloading every week, so we're grateful for that. And we're gonna do our job here at Unfiltered Podcast to make sure you guys get more content, more audio, more listening, more listens. If you haven't already, guys, go ahead and save it onto your podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. We're on Spotify, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio. Wherever you get your podcasts, guys, we are there. So there's no reason for you guys not to listen and to hear these beautiful gems that we have in mind. And yeah, like wherever you do, please save us on your channel, on your favorites. Click download when you want more downloads. We're trying to reach 1,000 to 2,000 every month, and that's our goal. Only way we can do that is with you guys. So without further ado, let's get our red warm carpet welcome to none other than Alema here with Unfiltered Podcast. Guys, what's up, brother?
Nothing much, bro. It's been a pleasure to listen to some of your platform. You guys do a great job here, so I'm excited for this one.
Bro, we're excited. We're grateful for you, bro. We're grateful for the space that you're in. We're grateful for one of the main podcasts that I listen to in Utah. You know, grateful for you guys and what you guys are able to accomplish. And honestly, bro, Unfiltered, authentic, it's like, you know, like nothing really like is drawn back from that. But bro, we will get into it as we go. But just introduce yourself, introduce your podcast. Yeah, and then what is your favorite food? Is like will be the main question for us.
My favorite food. So my name is Alema Pilimai. I'm a former college football player. Actually, that's kind of what got me into podcasting, was wanting to share the unfiltered stories of these athletes who, you know, have their own experiences, their own stories to tell. You know, me, I didn't have a favorable college football experience, you know, but I understand that my story is one of a million, right? And
yeah.
So there's a bunch of people who may resonate with me, who may not. But favorite food, when it comes to food, I've been I've been recorded and clipped for saying that I think the Hawaiians have the best cuisine.
I heard that. I've seen that.
I'm a huge fan of the Hawaiian cuisine. I love I love poke, I love raw fish, I love seafood. You know, so it's somewhere in there's probably a dish that like I that's probably my favorite, but that's what I'd have to say.
If you're on a deserted island and you can only pick one Hawaiian food to live off for the rest of your time on the island, what would it be?
It's poke.
Poke,
Bro.
Is there any type of poke?
I mean, I love ahi. I love my spicy salmon as well. So it just depends on what kind of mood I'm in. There's so much variation, you know.
There is
so much variety. So I gotta say it's one of those.
There is. I like that. I love poke too. It's like the best. Bro, we'll just get into it. Yeah, let's start off with like you being playing at one of the most prestigious, well-known schools in the whole of the United States, BYU Football. Teams that, you know, it's very noticeable. Everyone loves to watch. You guys, you know, always at huge stadiums. Like, just talk to us about your experience over there, bro, and like your journey through that transition into podcasting.
Yeah, so when it comes to my experience at BYU, you know, I'm very grateful for the opportunity that I had to have, you know, a scholarship coming in out of high school, serving a mission, coming back, and then realizing that, hey, I have my tuition paid for and stuff. So ultimately, my story comes from a place of gratitude because I know that it took a lot of hard work to get to where I'm at. You know, grateful for my dad for pushing me to be able to instill in me some level of confidence in my abilities so that I can go out and perform and ultimately get a free education, you know. So, but yeah, my experience at BYU, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of different athletes that have a similar story where they have an original conception or understanding of what they think of how it should be, right? But then very quickly in my football career, I realized that, no, there's a lot more moving pieces to this than just playing on the field, right? There's some level of politics, some level of favoritism, some level of bias, you know, the powers. There's a hierarchy.
Yeah.
It's unseen.
And that's like one thing that me being someone from New Zealand, coming to watch, like, you know, rugby's the main sport, but like me coming to America, I just started off UVU, living in Utah, living the experience, and I actually enjoying watching football and enjoying like football. Had some friends that were played in BYU, played for BYU with similar stories, and for them, and I'm like, for me to watch like the politics is it and how biased things could be, whereas playing favoritisms here and there, like, was that a huge factor in some? Would you say like in some seasons' success?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, and there's, me and my buddies who have played with me have had like these extensive conversations of like, man, what could have been if were just able to lock in and be able to, remove the emotional aspects, right? The emotional reaction to certain things. Mm-hmm. What could have been, but at the same time, like, that's not something that's unique to just my story. And I think that I've been trying really hard to explain that to people that are like, I'm not talking shit.
Yeah.
Sorry. Am I allowed to cuss?
You're good.
Okay. I'm not talking shit on BYU, right? I am sharing my experience. Personal experience. And in some ways, it is, what do you call that? In some ways it is positive, in some ways it's negative. Yeah. But that's just life in general. That's not like, it's not all flowers and sunshine and rainbows in life. And so when I share my story, I think a lot of people, they misconstrue it as a way for me to talk shit on my experiences with the people the powers that may be, right? Yeah. But that's not the case.
And the thing is, bro, like, you have this huge fan base, and this huge fan base that will follow like you guys franchise to the end, right? And that's the thing that's crazy about it, is like, you're in that circle and no one really knows, right? And that's the thing, that only a handful of athletes that will experience what you guys experience, and fans that don't know what you guys know. And knowing that you guys have loving fans, crediting to them, like, do you feel like as an organization they can do a lot better at, doing things the right way?
Absolutely. I think the transparency thing is like my biggest gripe with any institution that has such a huge fan base, such a huge influence, right? The transparency is important because the way that you portray a story, especially as an institution, that leaks to millions of people, right? And so millions of people are with the limited information. Like, I kind of spoke to you a little bit about this. Like, coming to a conclusion with limited information is only damaging. Mm-hmm. It's only damaging. It doesn't stand up for truth, and it doesn't stand up for what's real. And then you have these players who are these 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kids who are ultimately receiving the brunt of the reaction from this large mass of people who are using this limited information, making judgment on these kids, right? The transfer portal, for instance, when people start transferring and they want to go to a better situation for themselves, you have these fans that are saying, oh, so it's all about money then? So we can just buy talent, right? And I'm like, where did you get that from? What he just said? Like, obviously there is some sort of incentive. Yeah. But like, especially at BYU, like we have kids.
100%.
We have wives. We have people that we got to take care of, right? One of my teammates, one of my Tongan teammates, who was sending money home to his family after every check that he received from his scholarship. Now, mind you, he gets $1,600, maybe $1,600. 1,200. I mean, at least 75% of that check is going to his family.
That's insane.
You know what I'm saying? And so, like, I'm looking at this like, okay, you have no understanding of what the background information is, what the context is, and you're making a judgment because that's the story you have to tell yourself to make you feel justified in your opinion.
That is so crazy, bro. Because like for me as a fan, and also for me like watching the sport and like understanding like there's so much going for it. At the end of the day, you guys. Like, I think people don't understand, like, at the end of the day, when you guys are in that group, that's like a 1% of athletes trying to make it to 0.5% to the NFL. Yeah. Like, you guys are trying to be in that position where you guys do go, because that's the dream. Yeah. And they don't understand, I feel like sometimes, that, like, you guys have to think about yourselves. Putting you guys, like you know what I mean? Like you said, like, what's the best option for me? And then to get it backfired on you, like from organization or from fan base, like it just hurts. It's damaging. Yeah,
no, absolutely. I think people kind of forget that. Like, I get it. Like, you guys look at these young kids, the money that they're making now. Me, I'm sitting here like, good. We're in an industry where we have that ability to pay these kids for the hard work that they put into the sport. And so I don't think anyone has any place to make a judgment on the decision that they make. Now, maybe there's a bad decision that a player makes, but I don't think that gives anyone any leeway when it comes to making harsh judgments about their character and their intentions.
One thing that I want to touch on is like coaching, right? Like staff and coaching, and how it's always been operated. Like in terms of BYU and its coaching players and different teams or different because there's a defense, right, offense, and then special teams, right? Guys have all coaches for those. Like, was there a lot of tension between coaches and players like during your time when you're
Dude, hella, bro. I mean, especially because one thing that you'll learn really quickly is that things are good when you're winning. Things are good, bro. Things get overlooked.
100%.
Little mistakes get overlooked, right? When you're losing, that it brings all of that stuff to light. And when you're losing, you try to cast blame or responsibility onto something to explain why you're losing, right? And so that was kind of the experience that I had when going through like the 2022 season, when we're losing to teams like Liberty, losing to Eastern Carolina, like losing to these teams that we shouldn't be losing to, right? Historically, just being real. So yeah, the tension was real there because it was us players being thrown under the bus. Yeah, and then. But wait, hold on. Look at the scheme that we're running. Why are we losing? Why is this hold wide open? Why is it that we're trying to do we're all trying to do our job, and then we couldn't defend counter for our life. We're running it. They're running it right up our throats, and I'm thinking, man, like, could we just get a real defensive coordinator up in here, please? You know what I mean?
Bro, that's so true, bro. I feel like. Do you feel like positions of coaching and staff at BYU should have been sought out better?
I think what happened was there was a power dynamic shift throughout the years with the old administration, old staff. And it became very apparent to the players that Coach Kalani was not the one who was in charge, you know, or whoever it was, right? There were specific coaches involved that kind of took over the mantle and decided, hey, no, this is how we need to run our defense. We can't run it any other way because, you know, X, Y, and Z reasons. And I'm sitting there like, why? Like, why? You never even given us the opportunity to do so. And then when we did, it was, you know, and when we did try to switch up the defense, it became a, oh crap, they're gaining yardage on us. Now let's revert back to our old scheme. You know, we saw the panic a bunch of times. We're just like, man, there's no way these guys are professionals. There's no way.
That's crazy, bro. Dude, one question before we move on. Do you wish that, like, if there was one thing you could change about playing for BYU football or in the organization, what do you think that one change would be that would benefit a lot of other athletes and boys in the organization?
I think I wish I would have stood up for myself more. Absolutely. I think I would have stood up for myself more. I think I wish that I had seen the writing on the wall and then had the guts to make a decision that was best for myself. I mean, for so long I had tried to just please my coaches, tried to just please the powers that be, right, the hierarchy, and hoping that I could earn favor with them. And it never came to fruition. Nothing came out of that. I wish that I had stayed at tight end, at the position that I fell in love with, and just kind of either transferred or, you know, really had that tough conversation. I mean, I had a bunch of tough conversations, but ultimately I just felt like I wasn't getting anywhere, you know. So I wish I would have toughed it out and then transferred if I saw that things weren't changing, rather than switching positions to defense, which I did. I just wish that I would have, you know, wish I would have taken the steering wheel in my own destiny when it came to my professional sports life, right? It was so frustrating for me to feel like I was just at the mercy of these coaches who just, you go here, you go here. Yo, put on 20 pounds and play D-tackle. Like, I'm like, what? Bro, look, I get it. Like, BYU is that spot. You know, BYU is the place where you take these linebackers and turn them into D linemen, or you take these safeties and turn them into linebackers. But for me personally, I knew my body and I knew that I couldn't do what they wanted. And I knew that would affect my career ultimately.
Dang. Appreciate you sharing, bro. Next question is, on the podcast, we love focusing on setbacks and failures because we believe that understanding who we are, understanding those setbacks and failures we tend to be grateful for them so that we can turn into a positive. Has there ever been a setback or failure that you've had in your life that you've been most grateful for?
Setback or failure? Man, something that, this may seem, it's not necessarily something related to like my college sports career at all, but more so, so when I was younger, like my parents divorced when I was like, they divorced twice, once when I was like 8-ish, and then again when I was 12 or 13. And that whole relationship was just toxic. It brought negativity, it brought fights, arguments, bringing to light some of the worst parts of human behavior, human nature that you can take out of a person, right? And so for me, being around that as a young kid, it really just kind of threw me into the refiner's fire of just like, hey, who am I going to be? You know what I mean? Am I going to be like these two people who just display these abnormal levels of hatred towards one another? Or am I going to be someone who develops his own foundation of who he wants to be? And then am I going to turn this into something positive to where, okay, I make my own family. I find someone who's going to be a partner, a ride or die for me. And hopefully I will never have to go through that with, so I would say that my parents' divorce was a pivotal moment for me, a setback, if you will, or a failure. Yeah. That kind of helped me to kind of reshape my life, really take control of my my destiny, whatever you want to say, and hopefully turn it into something positive that I can carry on with my own family.
I like that, bro. That's super cool. Appreciate you for sharing that.
Oh, of course.
Our next question is what would be a piece of advice that you could give yourself at this time right now?
Like to my younger self?
Yeah, like just for you right now, like at this moment in time, like just whatever you've been thinking the past couple months, whatever, like what is a good piece of advice you can give yourself at this time with the journey that you're going towards?
Yeah. One thing, bro, that I feel like I struggle with is living in the moment, really feeling all of the feelings that are meant to be experienced. One thing that, I with my own marriage is like, I feel like I'm cold sometimes, you know what I mean? I like, not because I'm trying, like there's a deliberate intentionality with just like being cold towards those emotional moments. It's more so that like, I feel like man, it's tough. I can't even like cry sometimes, you know what I mean? Like, and if I do, it's because I've been overwhelmed with these things that have built up, So what one word of advice I'd give to myself is just like, man, just feel it, man. Just be in the moment, just really like take advantage of the fact that you can be vulnerable with some people, but man, I feel like I've just been, I told a therapist one time that like I feel like I've cried all the tears that I've needed to cry. You know what I mean? Like, and
I get it, bro.
It's just one of those things where like I wish that I could, but man, it's just tough.
Like sometimes you're numb towards like those emotions. Sometimes,
numb towards it, bro. Yeah. You know what I mean? And instead, it comes into like this cold frustration instead of like a vulnerable emotional outlet. I
like that. I think finding outlets is so important. Like especially for us Polynesian men, right? And that's a normal thing that we have to sometimes realize is us finding positive ways to outlet and also finding negative ways to outlet. Yeah. Like sometimes like we understand like building in frustration and anger, like it can lead towards something negative. Whereas can we find a way to process all those emotions in a negative way, in a positive way, right? That way we can still be in that calm mental state and moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
And last question, bro. Before we, end off the segment, what does authentic mean to you?
Oh, authentic. I was thinking about this question a while back because I'd seen your podcast and I thought like to myself, authentic, like what? Authentic, like, is it that I want to be authentic or do I want to be the best version of myself? Like which one? I felt like that those two ideas were in opposition to one another, And so after realizing that, I was like, no, it's not about authenticity and being your best self being in opposition, but that your best self is the authentic self. You know what I mean? So for me, authenticity is bare bones recognizing your identity as a child of God,
Mm-hmm.
right? Recognizing your potential
Mm-hmm.
as being a divine potential,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think that's ultimately what authenticity means to me, because we're lacking a lot of that now.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of it is manufactured.
Yeah.
A lot of it is fabricated emotional responses in order
100%, bro.
to seem authentic, right?
Exactly.
And so I think for me, you know, authentic means finding the divine potential that you have, and impact that you can have in the world.
I honestly think, yeah, bro, I love what you just said. When you said that, a thought came to my mind that, like, manufacturing is cheap nowadays and authenticity is expensive. So it's hard to come by. And that's the biggest thing about it is, like, people need to understand that authenticity is a process.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they need. And especially today, more than ever. But, bro, Lemma, thank you, bro. Thanks for being on the podcast. Thanks for the segment. Thanks for being here today, bro, and for allowing me to come here. Before we close out the show, anything you want to say?
No, I just want to say, I want to express gratitude first to Brandon for having me on the Authentic podcast. I've been watching from afar for a minute. You know, I've been listening to the clips and listening to the podcast. So I think the work that you're doing is, it's important. Here's the thing, like, we're the ones on the ground.
Yeah.
We're the ones on the ground. You know, we have these bigger platforms that share these big stories and stuff, but to take, you know, two Polynesian young men who represent a minority group, right, and then to put them into the world and try to use their gifts to share the stories of other people, man, that's something special.
100%, bro.
Something special.
And, like, yeah, and then honestly, in the future, bro, more episodes for us to collaborate to come. So, yeah, can't wait for this as well. So appreciate you, your platform, bro, and everything you stand for. But yeah, man, thanks for being here.
I appreciate you, Brandon. Thanks, bro.
Guys, if you haven't already, we'll make sure we'll link up. We'll put Unfiltered podcast and Alema socials on the description below, so you can guys go in and check that out. If you haven't already, guys, they're on all platforms as well. They're on all listening platforms, so go ahead and check them out. Great listens, great views, and also on social media. So we'll put everything down in the description below. But before that, guys, again, listen to us, gems that we drop every week, hopefully every week, and that's what we're going to aim towards. We're sorry for the inconsistency, but we'll be back, I promise you that, and we'll be doing more consistent content for you guys. In the meantime, check us out. We have around 56 episodes, so go ahead and listen to those. Everything's in the link above, and guys, stay authentic, stay real, be you. We'll see you guys later.
Appreciate y'all.